In 2004, director Morgan Spurlock shocked the world by showing everyone quite how bad McDonald's food really is. In his non-fiction documentary film, Supersize Me, the movie examines the potential causes of the American obesity epidemic, centered around a gimmicky experiment during which Spurlock eats nothing but Mickey D's food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner to gauge the effect on the human body.
Look at how big that thing is.
However, while many of his broader points about the food industry are valid, it turns out the results of Spurlock's experiment may have been deliberately misleading. So, today, we're going to take a look at everything that was misleading about Supersize Me. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other food-related movies you would like to hear about. Okay, fries are up. In 1987, the good people who run McDonald's, Ronald, Grimace, Hamburglar, and that whole crew, realized that they could make more money by selling customers slightly bigger portions. And sure enough, it was in the summer of that same year that America was introduced to the notion of supersizing their order. Basically, it just meant replacing the medium-sized fries and drink that came with a combo with their extra-large counterparts. But as it turns out, Americans really do believe size matters, and many were into it. Films like 1988's Who Framed Roger Rabbit and 1993's Jurassic Park were even promoted with special supersized combo meals. The term supersized quickly entered the lexicon. And before anyone knew it, the idea was American, as supersized mom, supersized Coke, and supersized apple pie. Then, in 2004, Spurlock came along with Supersize Me. The movie earned over $11 million at the domestic box office, which is still an astronomical sum for a non-fiction film. And whereas most documentaries are relegated to art houses, Supersize Me captured the interest of the nation at large, thanks to its intriguing premise. Spurlock ate nothing but McDonald's food 3 times a day for a month.
A little bit of heaven.
Keeping track of its effect on his health and mood in the process. He even received an Oscar nomination for his efforts. Time, however, was not entirely kind to the movie. Supersize Me became controversial as claims about its veracity emerged. Some argue that it was biased or contained manipulated information. Others said Spurlock's point was automatically invalidated because no one eats McDonald's at every meal. And even though Spurlock consulted medical professionals to verify his progress and results, still other critics pointed out that he was basically just asking viewers to take his word about how he felt in the midst of all his unhealthy eating.
The thing is, I've started to have like some not chest pains, but like pressure.
And about what he was actually putting into his body. And as it turns out, they all might be right. In Supersize Me, Spurlock claims he consumed roughly 5,000 calories per day, which causes him to gain a whopping 25 pounds in just 1 month. He also says his cholesterol spiked through the roof, his liver was ravaged, and that he became depressed as a result. The implication, which Spurlock hammers with all the subtlety of the McDonald's scene in Mac and Me, is that it is unhealthy to eat fast food regularly. The only problem is, no one else has been able to replicate Spurlock's results. At the University of Linköping in Sweden, for example, a group of researchers who were determined to figure out the secret of being unhealthy tried to duplicate Spurlock's results. They recruited 7 healthy medical students in their early 20s to spend a month gorging on hamburgers, french fries, pizza, and other fast foods. But that's not all. They also asked participants to avoid exercising, even going so far as to issue them free bus passes so they wouldn't walk anywhere. Based on Spurlock's work, the experiment should have yielded some Supersize Me-like body horror, but instead, their results were notably different. Weight gain in the area of 5 to 15% above normal and decreased energy were common, yet none of the test subjects reported feeling depression. Similarly, their livers were not impacted the way Spurlock's allegedly was. Meanwhile, cholesterol levels were largely unchanged. Based on the results, one of the researchers speculated Spurlock's results might have been caused by switching from a deliberately low-energy vegan diet. As he points out in the film, Spurlock was dating a vegan chef at the time and specifically mentions eating a vegan meal with her once per day before starting his fast food experiment. It could have made his body even less capable of dealing with the greasy fried foods. Maybe. The supersized success and cultural impact of Supersize Me spawned a number of imitators and spoofs.
Right?
And perhaps the most notable example came from comedian and former health writer Tom Naughton, who made the 2009 documentary Fathead. To challenge the findings in Spurlock's film, Naughton set out to lose weight on a fast food diet and recorded the results. His diet in the film is 50% fat intake, but he strategically plans his meals. In the process, he attempts to not only mock Spurlock, but also to correct what he sees as inaccurate information.
But when I've discussed the merits of Supersize Me with my friends and associates, I've noticed a curious pattern. Almost everyone who really likes that movie shares a common and dearly held belief.
Unlike Spurlock, Naughton's blood pressure stayed the same. He also lost weight and body fat, and his cholesterol even dropped a little. In fact, the only negative effect Naughton could find was that his HDL, the so-called good cholesterol, dropped too. However, according to Naughton, that wasn't from the saturated fat, but was the result of eating foods fried in trans fats, which were supposed to be the safe alternative to saturated fats. And when he tried another diet experiment later, living on a very high amount of saturated fat with no trans fats, his HDL shot up higher than ever, and he felt great.
Yeah, I feel great. If I thought I was having a heart attack or something, I probably wouldn't bother setting up a camera.
You probably assumed that the people behind McDonald's would consider Supersize Me to be a bit of a PR disaster. But in reality, they considered it to be a massive PR disaster. And they were right to. The movie became a cause célèbre in America, with the public and media talking about the potential unhealthiness of McDonald's food. For the pending overseas release, McDonald's decided to be proactive, taking out ads in Britain's biggest newspapers refuting the documentary and its claims. But not all of its claims. In fact, what may surprise you is that the ad contained the words, "What may surprise you is how much of the film we agree with." It then went on to acknowledge that Supersize Me did have some merit, agreeing with its core argument, that if you eat too much and do too little, it's bad for you. Yikes! They then went on to point out that Spurlock eats the amount of McDonald's food in 1 month that it would take an average consumer 6 years to consume, making him absolutely nothing like a typical customer. And they weren't wrong. The question of personal responsibility often comes up in criticisms of Spurlock's film. In fact, Supersize Me never mentions how things like portion sizes or exercise factored into his results. That's a significant point, because Spurlock intentionally circumvented these things. He never sought to limit his intake at any given meal. In fact, part of the rules of his experiment required him to supersize anytime he was asked.
Larger supersize.
I think I'm gonna have to go supersize.
And he studiously avoided the kind of exercise that might have mitigated his weight gain, which is to say, he rigged the results. Or in other words, nutrition, while important, is only one element of a healthy lifestyle. However you feel about its message, Supersize Me is entertaining. Spurlock accompanies the serious points he's making with moments of humor and the use of pop songs to ironically accentuate certain ideas. And it all works. But it also obscures the fact the director was biased. And it wasn't an accidental bias either. Author Chuck Klosterman has pointed out it was a self-serving bias that likely arose because you could not sell a movie about eating fast food and feeling fine. Essentially, Spurlock set out to make a movie about how McDonald's was contributing to the obesity epidemic, and was never trying to make an impartial evaluation of including fast food in your diet. Everyone knows fast food isn't terribly healthy. But Supersize Me makes the situation seem downright alarming. While evaluating his progress at the end of the film, Spurlock's doctor tells him he has liver damage because fast food is pickling his liver.
The results for your liver are obscene beyond anything I would have thought.
Indeed, the suggestion that fast food could be harmful to a person's liver was one of the film's more eye-opening moments. The thing is, Spurlock was lying. Or rather, he was hiding something significant. At the beginning of the movie, he claims to be in good health and denies alcohol use to his doctor in his initial checkup.
Any alcohol use?
Now, none.
But in a 2017 social media post addressing sexual harassment allegations made against him, Spurlock wrote that he had been consistently drinking since the age of 13 and hadn't been sober for more than a week in 30 years. In other words, there's a reason his liver looks like that of a binge drinker. And it ain't Mickey D's. The damage to Spurlock's liver is much better explained by his excessive drinking than by eating any amount of McDonald's. An article in the Wall Street Journal also speculated that the physical shakes Spurlock is shown experiencing in the film might have been a symptom of alcohol withdrawal. You might recall hearing that Mickey D's was so freaked out about Spurlock's documentary that they ended their Supersize promotion permanently. While that has become part of the film's lore, like so much else about Supersize Me, it may not be entirely true. It is accurate that McDonald's scrapped supersized foods and drinks at the end of 2004, but the company denied it had anything to do with Spurlock's documentary, instead calling it an act of menu simplification. According to McDonald's, it's because supersized French fries were not an especially popular item. So while they didn't rule out bringing them back from time to time in special promotions, they felt it was time to phase them out. That being said, according to Bloomberg, McDonald's menu would only get more complicated in the years to come, ballooning from 60 to 145 items between 2007 and 2014. At the very least, that has to call the whole menu simplification rationale into question. It's also important to remember that the Golden Arches felt threatened enough by Spurlock's film to take out a full-page ad in the paper. So, much like Supersize Me, we should take McDonald's explanation with a grain of fry salt. So what do you think? Did you believe what you saw in Supersize Me? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.